I am a famous waste princess of Da'in, both civil and military, and I have a good skin. Therefore, my wise father waved his hand, and gave me to the emperor of Daki. I heard that the emperor of the state of Qi was unpredictable, and had many quirks, especially the beauty who killed them, and the harem was empty and empty. Qi Yan showed me his fan made of beauty bones, rubbed the top of my hair lightly with one hand, as if smiling, "Are you afraid? If you are afraid, it is too late to run back to your own kingdom now." My hand holding his sleeve trembled slightly, but I shook my head when I heard this. "No, I won't go back." Qi Yan's hand on top of my head pressed down. "Oh. Why?" I met his slightly narrowed eyes and spat out, "I'm too lazy to run." Qi Yan. "Just kidding, running back from Qi to Yin, very tired, okay. My name is Yin Rao, I am from the Yin kingdom. Ah no, in the words of my father, I am the famous strawbag princess of Da'in. In fact, the Yin kingdom is a small projectile country, next to the great Qi, and is purely a vassal. But the father said that the country was already so small, and the name should be shouted louder, to be called Da'in, as if this could be compared with Qi. Laughing to death, Qi didn't bother to pay attention at all. However, my father was worried all day long, afraid that the growing Qi state would be in a bad mood one day, so he would swallow us here. After all, before this, there were already 3 small countries bigger than us that became a county. The Yin state did not have enough bad soldiers, let alone attack, and the defense was difficult. So my extremely smart father patted his head, and said that he would try 36 beauty tricks, and sent me to Qi Yan's bed, and gave me a task. I don't expect to harm the country and the people, and I can persuade Qi Yan not to swallow the Yin kingdom. Before I came, I heard that the emperor of Qi was diligent and thrifty, governed the country well, and opened the prosperous era of Qi in one fell swoop, but he had a lot of quirks, especially good at killing beauties. Therefore, many people speculate whether this emperor will cut off his sons and grandchildren, and where will Daki go in the future. I listened to these gossip all the way, plus the fatigue of the boat and the car, and I was reminded by the grandmother who came to pick me up, "Princess, you will see your majesty later, you should wake up first." I nodded very perfunctorily and sat on the bed, half asleep. It was Qi Yan's hand that woke me up completely, cold and slowly stroking my face. I met his dark eyes, forgot to even salute, and blinked in a daze. "Your Majesty. Are you sleepy?" His voice was clear, like his people, clear and cold, and the black clothes embroidered with golden dragons on him exuded a fairy aura. No wonder he was not close to women, and he didn't look like a cannibal fireworks. "I'm not very sleepy now. After all, this hand is really cool." His fingertips slowly moved down, wrapped back, and stopped at the back of my neck. I feel that he can strangle me at any time. But looking at his expression, it didn't look like he wanted to strangle me to death. So I stared at him blankly, and let him knead the back of my neck without hesitation. After a long time, "Don't say it, it's quite comfortable." After a while, he still asked me with a faint expression, "Aren't you afraid of me?" I was rubbed comfortably by him, half squinted my eyes and snorted twice, "I'm not afraid." He curled his lips and smiled, "What if I say I want to kill you? Then your Majesty will do it." I don't have any other advantages, I just have a big heart. Even if I have a bad heart, I can figure it out after thinking about it for a while, and then it will pass. Moreover, when I was sent, I knew that I probably wouldn't live long, so I wasn't surprised to hear him say this. Qi Yan stared at me for a while and said with a smile, "You are not worth doing it yourself." I thought hard, stretched out my hands and blinked. "Then does your Majesty want someone to torture me away?" Qi Yan. That's it. He let go of the back of my neck and turned to untie my belt. "Ingwa has such good intentions, I can't live up to it." His hands were so cold that I couldn't help but get goosebumps, and when he saw it, he laughed at me again. "Are you afraid?" I don't really understand why he is so persistent and afraid of him, and for what will happen next. Although I am still a girl with yellow flowers, I have also seen the painting. For me, there is only one thing that matters, your Majesty. Huh? I don't want to move. Qi Yan. Qi Yan probably didn't want to move, he was silent for a while, turned over and lay aside, put his arms around my waist, and said emotionlessly, "Go to sleep." He looked like he was not the one who had just tried to tease me. I thought about it, silently pulled up the quilt to cover my body, thought about it again, covered Chi Yan by the way, and then closed my eyes and went to sleep. Although Chi Yan's hands were cold, his body was very warm. The spring was cold and I rolled into his arms while I was asleep, dreaming that I was holding a big stove, which was so uncomfortable. When I woke up, there was no one beside me, and the palace maid told me that Chi Yan made me a noble concubine. She was even more excited than me. "Mother, you are my first noble concubine. What about those who entered the palace before?" The palace maid choked. "It's not a position. Mother, don't mind." I nodded clearly. "Well, I understand. Probably before he got any position, he returned to the west. Then if you do that, I will return to the west until I get a noble concubine, which can be regarded as giving me a long face in the Yin kingdom. I just don't know when Chi Yan plans to kill me." He was so busy that he hadn't stepped into the harem for half a month since he slept with me in his arms that day. If this is my father, it is normal not to go to court for half a month. The people in the palace were snobbish. At first they thought I was favored, and they would flatter me, but then they saw that I was nothing more than that, and they began to snub me. After eating 3 days of bland meals in a row, I thought for a while, and ordered 2 palace maids who were more obedient to me to renovate the open space in front of my palace. Let's talk about it here first, because Chi Yan's harem withered, and those palaces were like cold palaces, overgrown with weeds, and they simply wasted such good soil. I took out the seeds I brought from the Yin kingdom, asked the palace people to plant them for me, and then ordered them to water, fertilize, weed, etc. Xiaotsue was the palace maid closest to me, standing aside and asking curiously, "Mother, your Majesty has not come to see you for so long, why are you still so happy?" I stared at the small vegetable patch and licked my lips. Isn't it nice to have someone help me farm? In the past, in the Yin kingdom, I was not favored, and the food was naturally not very good, and the temple was small and the demon wind was strong, and the people in my father's palace were even more excessive than Chi Yan's here. I could only grow my own vegetables, really. It's hard. Now I can finally be a shopkeeper, so happy. When Chi Yan finally remembered me, I was squatting in the vegetable field, happily stroking the newly sprouted shoots. Xiaotsue hurriedly ran over. "Mother, your Majesty is here." As soon as the words fell, a pair of gold-rimmed black boots appeared next to the tender green shoots. I looked up. He was carrying the light on his back, his expression was unclear, and he opened his mouth. "Listen to the servant, what do you want?" "Raising chickens." "Oh, there is indeed such a thing, because the meat dishes sent from the imperial dining room are really unsatisfactory, so I want to raise a few myself, and it just so happens that there is an open space behind the palace that is very suitable for raising chickens. As for how I can raise chickens, it can only be said that it is all forced by life." I briefly informed Chi Yan of my agricultural plan, but I saw that his face was getting colder and colder, and the palace people next to me knelt down in unison. "Why don't you come and tell me?" His tone was still very flat, even a little colder. "Isn't your Majesty busy with government affairs these days?" I was a little puzzled, and it's all trivial. In the past, when my father learned about these things, he didn't care about me. After all, he had 8 daughters alone. Small things. Chi Yan sneered. "Is my daki so down that I want to let the dignified noble concubine farm and raise chickens by herself?" Saying that, the eunuch beside him winked at his subordinates. "The people in the imperial dining room are not doing well, let them take the punishment themselves." Chi Yan looked at my face, stopped the little eunuch, turned to me and asked, "Look at what you have to say, do you want to intercede for them?" I didn't expect him to keep looking at me, stunned for a moment, and then shook his head. "No, the concubines are just curious. How does your Majesty plan to punish them?" There was inexplicably more interest in his eyes. "How do you want me to punish them?" Suddenly I felt that everyone was looking at me nervously. I thought about it and said, "Why don't you let them help me farm and feed the chickens? Speaking of which, there is not enough manpower." Chi Yan. Later, Xiaotsue, who seemed to have escaped death, told me that such a situation had happened in the past. Qi Yan asked those beauties how to punish them. Those who intercede for their servants will kill the beauty. If you say you want to punish someone, you will be punished in front of her, and then the beauty will be frightened. Xiaocui was pale when she described those bloody scenes to me, obviously with lingering fears. And I looked at the eunuch in the imperial dining room, who was feeding me the chickens, and fell into deep thought. This Emperor of Qi seems to be really strange. 3. But that doesn't affect my farming plans. Spring is the season of all things growing, and a month has passed, and the cabbage in the field has grown happily. I was very happy, staring at the small vegetable leaves and rubbing my hands. The water and soil of Qi are really good, much better than my home. Seeing this, Xiaocui couldn't help but speak. Mother, the imperial dining room is now very cautious in terms of food. Why do you still want to keep this 1/3 of an acre of land? If I don't guard this land, who will I guard? Of course it's. She glared at me hatefully, and then said aggrievedly, you don't know, Your Majesty hasn't stepped into our Huaning Palace this month, and there is a lot of gossip outside. Just let them say, Your Majesty is busy with state affairs, let's not disturb others if we have nothing to do. Did you hear the rooster crowing? I guess it laid eggs. Let's take a walk, let's dig out the chicken nest. As he spoke, he dragged Xiaocui to the chicken coop, and by the way, he encouraged her to reach out and take out 2 eggs. I will never do it myself if I can ask others to help me. The old hen chased and scolded from behind. Xiaocui, who had been thinking about it, laughed and ran while teasing it. 2H, what are you doing? Didn't I just take your 2 eggs? What a stinginess. Old hen, cluck. I held the stolen goods in my arms and watched from the sidelines. No. Finding that Xiaocui was trapped by me, she ran to my side and was angry. Mother. Okay, I know what you mean. My old god is here, I'll cook myself today, and I'll send it to the imperial study later, right? Isn't it just a competition for favor? Haven't you seen a pig run, and haven't eaten pork? What's more, I've seen pigs run. My father has dozens of concubines, and the methods of competing for favor that I have seen since I can remember have emerged one after another, but I am lazy and never like to use them. Originally, Qi Yan put me in the palace as a vase. He was busy with his government affairs. I planted my land, and it was good to be safe. However, there are many rumors outside, all of which are rumored to be my fox flattering and confusing the Lord, and I am favored by the 6 palaces, which is simply nonsense. I heard that there were many courtiers who came up and asked Qi Yan to enrich the harem, and he must not be fooled by the demon girl of a vassal country, and later I heard that there has been a lot of turmoil in Qi recently, so Qi Yan was so busy that he was dizzy, and his feet did not touch the ground, which was hard work. Then I live in other people's houses, eat other people's food, and plant other people's land, so I still have to express it somewhat at this time. Therefore I personally cooked a bowl of colorful and fragrant egg custard. The cabbage in the main field has not yet grown, otherwise you can still make another dish of scrambled cabbage with eggs. Xiaocui looked embarrassed. Mother, isn't this good? Why don't you make some pastries or something? But I won't. I said calmly, otherwise, can you show me how to make pastries with 2 eggs? Xiaocui really couldn't stand it, so she insisted on bringing 2 plates of peach blossom cakes and stuffing them into the food box. Mother, you will say that you made the peach blossom cake when the time comes. I nodded perfunctorily, okay. Then when Qi Yan saw what I took out, I honestly introduced, the egg custard is made by the concubine, and the peach blossom crisp is made in the small kitchen. The little eunuch on the side pursed his mouth and held back a smile. Don't think I didn't see it. Qi Yan didn't smile, just held his head in one hand and raised his eyebrows slightly. Why do you make egg custard yourself? Because the old hen just laid 2 eggs. The hen was originally brought by him on his orders, so it makes sense to give him the eggs to eat, right? But seeing Qi Yan, he had no intention of moving. I glanced at the exquisite peach blossom cake, blessed my soul, and said, if your majesty doesn't like egg custard, you can also eat some peach blossom cake. Qi Yan put down his hand and tapped the table gently. In terms of nourishing the body, how can pastries compare to egg custard? Well, Is there still such a statement? I'm still thinking about whether this statement is reasonable. Chi Yen has already finished the egg custard, and finally has the heart to comment, "Well done, promote you to be the queen." "Thank you, your majesty." Ha! He didn't care about my surprise at all, and ordered a plate of peach blossom crisp. "I'm full, you can eat this pastry." So I sat next to him very honestly, and ate a whole plate of peach blossom cake. Not to mention, the small kitchen craftsmanship is still very good. Chi Yen kept watching me eat, looking very interested, which made me hesitate for a while when I picked up the last piece. "Your Majesty, do you want a piece?" "No, I don't like sweets." "Oh." Hearing this, I ate the last piece with peace of mind, and then heard him ask, "Is it sweet?" "Sweet." Before I could finish on the ground, he suddenly leaned over and pinched my chin, and took my lips. After some struggle, he stared at me with burning eyes. "It's quite sweet." I came back to my senses, feeling complicated. "Your Majesty, don't you think it's dirty?" The egg custard mixed with the taste of peach blossom crisp. At least I don't want to taste it again in my life. Chi Yen. Chi Yen's perspective, Yin Rao, who has just finished eating peach blossom crisp, has delicate pink lips and a face like a hibiscus, and looks very close. For on that day, Chi Yen asked me to go back with a subtle expression, and then issued an imperial decree to make me queen. Xiao Tsui was taken aback and was sincerely frightened. "Mother, you won't be drugging egg custard, will you?" I then followed the imperial decree like a hot potato, and I couldn't help but roll my eyes when I heard her words. "Nonsense, the eggs were all taken out of the chicken coop by your own hands, and you watched me make the whole process. Can you not know how authentic these eggs are? The ingredients are authentic, the method is authentic, and the taste is also authentic, and it is obviously an unpretentious egg custard." As for why Chi Yen suddenly went crazy and asked me to be the queen, it all started with the minister who petitioned the emperor to enrich the harem. Originally, when a beauty was sent to death, the courtiers did not dare to ask for a concubine again, but now seeing that I, an unfavored princess in a foreign country, has been safe and sound for so long, my mind is alive again. On the front foot of the day I went to deliver egg custard. This loyal courtier had just finished speaking, saying that after the turmoil subsided, the small countries that had been taken over also wanted to send the princess over to make peace. Perhaps Chi Yen also felt bored after finishing state affairs, so he agreed. Then I stepped forward and brushed a wave of presents, reminding him that the harem was not empty. I guess he was also too troublesome, so he simply asked me to be the queen, so that those courtiers would have to say who was more suitable to be the queen, and the mother of the world. After all, I was favored in the harem before, and it is reasonable to become a queen once I become a queen. However, I looked at the two newcomers in front of me, a little big-headed. Oh my God, I just want to farm and raise chickens in peace, and I don't want to manage the harem. But Chi Yen threatened me with vegetable patches and chicken coops, so I could only bite the bullet and pretend to be a virtuous queen for a day. By evening, I was already a useless person, and while asking Xiao Tsui to help me rub my shoulders, I complained, "How can your Queen Daki's headdress be so heavy? I see that the headdress of our Queen Yin is very light. It can only be said that it is worthy of the style of a big country, and the weight of a big country." Xiao Tsui was elated, and her mouth was almost crooked with a smile. "Mother, this shows that the queen has a lot of weight, and in this way, even if someone wants to compete with you for favor in the future, it will not threaten your status." The slave in the day saw that the good concubine's face was not good, and it was not easy to deal with, but the lady had to be careful. This biting dog didn't bark. I didn't know that this little girl was so young. Where did she have such a strong desire to fight in the palace? I had a headache when I heard it, and interrupted her. "Did you feed the chicken tonight?" Xiao Tsui, "Okay, I'll go right away. The root of the ear is clean." When I was about to go to bed, Chi Yen came, and he didn't do anything, he just put his arms around my waist and planned to sleep. Before going to bed, he buried his head in my neck and sniffed it, and suddenly spoke, "You changed the incense." I was almost asleep and said with my eyelids up, "No, my concubines never burn incense. Maybe I saw my two sisters in broad daylight, and I brought a smell. I have a smell that smells like bok choy at most." Concubine by Ri has a fragrance on her body, which is quiet and smelly, and is said to be her family's secret recipe. Qi Yan was not happy anymore, so he dragged me up, go take a bath. The concubine has taken a bath. I yawned and thought something was wrong with him. Go wash your hair, he said in a light tone, but not to be spoken, or I don't mind pulling you to wash it together. No matter how big the drowsiness was, I got up again, washed my hair hastily, and wanted to sleep when I was still wet, but was pulled by Qi Yan, who supervised the whole process. Come here. I can't help it at all when I'm really sleepy, and the kind that can't stop me from sleeping even if the sky falls. Qi Yan leaned on the bed. I endured my sleepiness, and met his deep eyes, thought about it, and simply squeezed into his arms, sleeping with my forehead against his chest. Half asleep and half awake, I seemed to hear him sigh and asked for a towel to wipe my hair. But what does this have to do with me? I slept soundly with the big stove. When I woke up the next day, Xiaotsui told me that Qi Yan was exempted from the daily greetings, and specially told concubine Shu not to come to my palace if she was fine. I didn't want to get up early just to hear a few greetings and see it come true. But concubine Shu was not happy, and said that since she couldn't come to my palace, she hoped that I could go to her palace to sit. I didn't want to go, but Xiaotsui kept whispering in my ear, "Mother, this is a great time to get off the horse." I had a headache, so I had to take a plate of peach blossom cake with me. Concubine Shu's name was Liang Ziyi, and she was originally the youngest princess of Liang. It is said that after the annexation of the Liang kingdom, all adult men and women in her clan were beheaded, leaving only her and her younger brother to remain in Liang County. Now a few years later, she was sent to the palace by her own brother. Liang Ziyi's appearance is like that of a woman in a water town in Jiangnan, and her figure is also thin, just sitting in the pavilion, like an ink painting. Queen Wanan. Seeing my arrival, she saluted me softly. The concubine has long heard of the good name of the lady, and has always wanted to be close to the lady, but yesterday she was in a hurry and couldn't say a few more words to the lady, so today I asked the lady to listen to Yushuan's story. The lady won't mind, right? Her voice was gentle and beautiful, with a little Wunong soft words, and the fragrance on my body was half soft. No. Xiaotsui squeezed my hand, hinting that I wanted to have a bit of Queen's Majesty. I didn't bother to care, so I happily handed her the peach blossom cake. Try the snacks I made in the palace. Liang Ziyi smiled softly, ate in small bites, ate one after a while, and the rest went into my stomach. The lady looks thin, and her appetite is so good, she said with a smile. I was not annoyed when I heard this. It's all food, it can't be wasted. I thought to myself that I wasn't actually thin, but I was hiding it, so Qi Yan liked to pinch the soft flesh around my waist and play with it. No, why did you think of him? I only slept twice with him, how can I remember this detail? I wandered out of the sky, and it took a while to hear what Liang Ziyi was asking me. She asked me what Qi Yan liked to eat, and she wanted to make something with her own hands and send it over. I thought for a moment and said uncertainly, maybe it's egg custard. Liang Ziyi, ? In the evening, Qi Yan came again, earlier than yesterday, so he smelled the smell on my body at once. Went to see concubine Shu? He asked yes, but it didn't seem surprising, and then turned around and ordered someone to serve me to take a bath and change clothes. When I came out wet, he dragged me over and took the towel in his hand to wipe my hair. A set of actions went smoothly, and I was already leaning in his arms before I could react. I realized in hindsight, Your Majesty doesn't like the aroma of concubine Shu. His tone was lazy. I don't like it. Oh, superscript 1 then, if Your Majesty wants to come from now on, please tell me in advance, and the concubine will bathe and wash up first. He paused and chuckled. I'm not curious why I don't like it. Your Majesty naturally has your own reasons. The main thing is that I am too lazy to ask. In case I touch something old, it is not good. He moved away, lifted my chin, and said with a smile, then the queen always has to prepare in advance and work hard. Why not associate with concubine Shu for me? I was very honest. Everyone is in the same palace, isn't it realistic? Qi Yan's eyes gradually deepened, and although there was a smile on his mouth, his eyes were cold, like a frozen lake on a dark winter night, reflecting the faint moonlight, pretending that he was still flowing slowly. No matter how stupid I am, I can see that something is wrong, and I instantly show weakness. If your majesty asks for it, the concubine will obey. The light on the lake flashed, so listen to me. I nodded like pounding garlic. After all, you are the boss of the palace. And Ting Yuxuan is really far away, I really don't bother to leave. Qi Yan, she is so obedient, she has me in her heart. Yin Rao, a mun is not as good as an old hen. 5 From that night on, Qi Yan stayed in my palace every day, and he didn't do anything, so he slept with me in his arms. So I didn't leave the palace even a step, firstly because I was afraid that he would be forced to take a second bath if I got some smell, and secondly, I was mainly lazy. In early summer, some ministers of the previous dynasty were worried about the future of the state of Qi, and they said that the emperor's heirs were withering, and they must take precautions. This is the truth, but according to the information Xiao Cui inquired from the front line, the minister was dissatisfied with my favor for so long, and the newcomer was recruited, but Qi Yan never went to see it. Demon girl, demon girl. Xiao Cui learned the minister's demeanor after leaving the court, and her expression was indignant. I heard that the eldest princess of the Yin state was born like a fox before. If she really confuses the emperor's mind, and she will give birth to a prince with Yin blood in the future, what should this do? Steam. As I listened, I ordered the people in the kitchen. Steamed crucian carp is delicious. Xiao Cui hated iron again. Lady. Don't worry about it, I waved my hand. No matter how strong the wind blows ahead, it won't blow us here, and if there really is such a day, we can't do anything, so it's better to eat first. Since I was born, the identity of the red face has never left me, and it is not over when I really care about it. I ate half a crucian carp that night, and when Qi Yan came, I was still burping very elegantly. It's definitely not my fault, it's that he came back too early this time. Tonight, I won't stay with you. He glanced at the leftovers and said indifferently. I didn't care, I nodded. Your Majesty can let Xiaofuzi inform you if you have something. As if he hadn't heard, he stared at me and said, I want to visit concubine Shu tonight. I was stunned for a moment, and then I thought that it was nothing. People had been coming in for 2 months, so I nodded again. Oh. Qi Yan's expression became very strange at that moment, as if he was a little angry and a little frustrated, and I couldn't understand it. In short, he stared at me for a long time, and finally threw off his sleeves and left. When I went to bed at night, I felt a little uncomfortable, and I always felt that something was missing, and finally I found a pillow to hug in my arms, and then I felt comfortable, and had a good night's sleep. The next day, Xiao Cui was like a great enemy, saying that the emperor looked in bad spirits, had a bad complexion, and had a bad temper in the morning court today. Mother, your Majesty will not really. Concubine Shu, I stared at the vegetable patch in the sun, thoughtful. Xiao Cui, our little cabbage can be harvested. Xiao Cui immediately shifted her attention. Yes. This is the last crop, and when I finish harvesting this wave, I will have nothing to plant. After all, I thought I wouldn't live long, so I didn't bring many seeds, so I could only sigh secretly. I was short-sighted. The vegetable field was empty, and Xiao Cui and I ate cabbage for 3 days in a row, and suddenly felt bored and boring, and began to urge the old hen to lay eggs every day. The old hen was forced to take a bite of Xiao Cui's hand. Xiao Nizi watched me treat her wound while complaining, Mother, why don't we go buy some more seeds? I patted her on the head, very relieved. You finally don't want to compete for favor, you just want to farm. Xiao Cui. Recently, Qi Yan has been staying overnight to listen to Yuxuan, so at the beginning, Xiao Cui whispered in my ear every day that she was going to regain the emperor's favor, and in the past 2 days, she should have found that she was doing useless work and finally gave up. I am satisfied, but I don't plan to farm anymore. The reason is very simple, it was because the imperial dining room was deducted from eating, so I had to be self-reliant, but now that I have become a queen, the food is really good, so there is no need to plant it. Xiao Cui's eyes were faint. Mother, you are just lazy. I didn't shy away. Summer is here, the weather is getting hotter, and I am really too lazy to move, preferring to hide in the shade and watch the old hen lay eggs rather than stare at the vegetable field. What's more, a few days later, a cat bit my old hen to death, and I caught it red-handed. It is a civet cat, with a bit of a big belly, and it is not afraid when it sees people coming, and it does not let go when it holds the neck of the old hen. The little eunuchs caught it in a cage, and it shrank in the corner and glared at people, and when people approached they gasped. I wasn't annoyed at all, squatting outside the cage and watching with relish. Xiaotsue already understands me very well now. Mother, do you want to raise a cat now? Yes, you think, Gugu died under its mouth, one life is worth another, and it should redeem me for the rest of its life. Xiaotsue was stunned. Who is Gugu? Old hen, I licked my lips confidently, the name that just came up looks more solemn. Xiaotsue. It's a pity that this two-civet cat has a very wild temperament, and after being locked up for a day, it still ignores people, doesn't eat or drink, and I am a little anxious. And then I heard Xiao Chui come in and say, Mother, concubine Liang asks to see you. As soon as the words fell, concubine Liang hurriedly came in, and when she saw the cage, she rushed over. Mimi, you are really here. The case was solved. Xiaotsue and I looked at each other and joked, concubine Liang, if this is your cat, then you owe this palace a life, and this palace's coup died at its hands. Concubine Liang looked stunned. Gugu. I looked heartbroken. Gugu is the most beloved child of this palace. Concubine Liang's face was full of panic. I have never heard that the queen is pregnant. Xiaotsue finally couldn't stand it. Concubine Liang, Gugu is a hen raised by our mother, and she has a deep relationship with her. Well, it's very deep, so deep that last night I specially stewed a pot of delicious chicken soup to pay tribute to the dead soul of Gugu. Concubine Liang, ? Qi Yan, why isn't she jealous? Yin Rao didn't think about men at all. I want to raise a cat. 6. The concubine was named Jiang Yao, who was originally the princess of Jiang State. Because Jiang was surrendered in a timely manner, basically no one died, and the Jiang family was also doing well in Jiang County. As for this trip to the palace, it was purely because her father wanted to please Qi Yan, so he got her in. The civet cat was brought into the palace by Jiang Ningyao, but she didn't expect to be pregnant when she came in, and she had just given birth to 3 kittens a month ago, and now only one has survived. She apologized for the crime Mimi had committed, but seemed to be still uneasy, and proposed to give the kitten to me when it was 3 months old. I saw that she was quite reluctant, and the handkerchief in her hand was twisted and twisted, so I said, it's okay, it's a big deal that you can find another chicken and give it back to me. Jiang Ningyao bit her lip and said firmly, no, my lady, the concubine will definitely let Mimi be responsible for Gugu's death. This time it was my turn. Okay, that's fine. When I went to her palace to see the kitten, I knew why she was so determined. Because Mimi's baby was born a little sloppy, black, in Jiang Ningyao's words, like a rag. I don't know which male cat with no conscience did it, I don't think it looks very good, and it also harmed Mimi. She was quite resentful. I stared at the little milk cat and looked at it again and again, but I didn't think so. It's quite cute, then when it gets older, raise it for me. Jiang Ningyao scratched her head, then does the lady want to name it? I touched my chin, just listen to you, call it a rag. Jiang Ningyao. This is how Jiang Ningyao and I started interacting. Because the rag was still small and Mimi was tight, it was inconvenient to bring it with me, so I rarely started going out, and from time to time I went to Jiang Ningyao's Shangxi Hall. Jiang Ningyao has a bit of a young lady's temperament, but her nature is not bad, and she is much easier to deal with than Liang Zi. What is especially important is that when I gave her peach blossom cake, she ate more than me, and I felt that this person could handle it. Jiang Ningyao talked a lot, and she probably told Mimi in the past, but now that I'm here, she pulls me to say. She said that when she heard rumors before, she thought I was a femme fatale, scheming and difficult to get along with, but now that I see it, I know that the rumors are not believable. I corrected her seriously, it's not entirely untrustworthy. She was stunned. Huh? I glanced at him, I am indeed a beauty. Jiang Ningyao. To be honest, my mother was originally from Qi, and it was because of her appearance that she was forcibly abducted by my father, became a concubine, and finally died depressed. And my brothers and sisters, although they are somewhat similar to me, are not as beautiful as my mother, so they are not as good as me. Probably because I was too much like my mother, my father was reluctant to see me, for fear of remembering that he had harmed an innocent woman. When I was about to become a coming of age, that bullshit national teacher gave me a hexagram, saying that I was the reincarnation of a fox demon, a red face, and a disaster, destined to harm the country and the people, and no matter how bad it was, it would definitely be Kafukezi, so no one in the Yin kingdom and the Manchu dynasty dared to marry me. I couldn't recruit the son-in-law, so I stayed empty for 4 years, and after becoming an old girl, I was given to Qi Yan by my smart father. It is said that the red face is a disaster, and the grandmother who brought me up also said that this good appearance is only a disaster for me, but I think, who knows if it will be a blessing in disguise. For example, now, I can mix into a queen, and this skin must be credited. Jiang Ningyao already dared to dislike me, what a stinky fart. If you want to talk about appearance, I still like concubine Shu, but she has a weird personality, and I really can't get along. Finally, he gossiped with me again. I heard that their Liang family has always been very uneasy. Isn't concubine Shu favored recently? I heard that this is inseparable from her brother. Liang Zi's younger brother, who is said to be an ambitious man, was originally demoted to a commoner, but he didn't know how to blend into the army, and made a lot of military exploits in the recent turmoil and pacification, and now he can be regarded as a serious major general. I scratched my chin on the rag and exclaimed, "What an inspirational story." Jiang Ningyao glanced at me, you don't have any ideas. What do you think? She pestled me with her elbow, wasn't you the most favored before? Now your majesty hasn't been looking for you for so long. I seem to see Xiaotsui again, very helpless. Isn't this the case in the harem? Why worry so much? It's better to eat and sleep well. You are right, break the rag. Rag, meow. I nodded, look, it agrees with me. Jiang Ningyao. When I went to bed at night, I still thought of Qi Yan, and couldn't help but ask Xiaotsui, how long has it been since your majesty came to us? It's been more than a month. Xiaotsui was startled, why did you suddenly ask this? You won't have a fever, will you? I patted her hand away and said, funny, you just have a fever, and it's getting worse and worse. But I was afraid of whatever I was afraid of. I rarely woke up in the middle of the night. I just felt hot and panicked, and when I touched it again, someone was holding me, and my soul was frightened away in an instant. Who? A familiar cold voice came from above his head, with a little teasing, did I wake you up? It's really rare. Your Majesty. Aren't you staying overnight to listen to Yuxuan tonight? I saw the window ajar and breathed a sigh of relief. Your Majesty came in through the window. He was not ashamed. Why did you wake up? Dreaming? I was awakened by the heat, I said honestly, and pushed him. Your Majesty, you are too close. It's too tiring to sweat and take a bath later. Qi Yan tightened my waist, pinched it, and said, it seems that my queen has been doing well recently. I felt that his tone was cold, as if he was in a bad mood, so I joked, maybe it's because the concubine ate the old hen, which is more nourishing. He really laughed sullenly, buried it in my neck and took a bite. My lower mouth was a little heavy, and I subconsciously hummed and felt that his body was getting hotter. Yin Rao. He rarely called my name, and stopped talking after calling. I felt some change and whispered to him, Your Majesty. He held me up and didn't let me move, gritted his teeth a little, shut up. Oh. So I stopped talking and didn't move. The so-called calm and natural coolness, gradually, I didn't feel hot anymore, and fell asleep with the sound of Qi Yan's breathing. When she woke up the next day, Xiaotsui said that she had never seen His Majesty. I think Qi Yan came to listen to Yuxuan again in the morning. I just want to say about this, can you really toss? So when Qi Yan came in through the window again to wake me up, I couldn't help but sigh, Your Majesty, you don't sleep at all, do you? He pinched my chin, his eyes were dangerous, don't you want me to come? No, Your Majesty can come at any time, but can the action be smaller? It was really hard to be woken up in the middle of the night. He was unrelenting. Then are you willing to let me come? My desire to survive was online. I am very willing, very willing. I dream of your majesty coming. He pulled the corners of his mouth, obviously not believing it, but his mood was better, and he even climbed along the pole. Then I will come every day in the future. Me, it's okay as long as you're happy. It's a big deal, I sleep more during the day. 7 From then on, Chi Yan began to touch my bedroom in the middle of the night every day and sleep with me. According to him, he was listening to Yuxuan sleeping restlessly, and he could only sleep with me, probably because of the soft flesh on my waist. Me. Although he was finally able to sleep, he still slept in the middle of the night every day, which caused his spirit to become worse and worse. Xiaotsue bit my ear and said, "Mother, I heard that your majesty has been dark lately. Could it be that you are overindulging?" I thought about someone who hugged me at night and said I was fat, and deliberately said, "It's possible." Chi Yan came very early that night, crawled over from the end of the bed, grabbed my ankle with one hand, supported my waist with the other, and said slowly, "Am I overindulging?" He knows, and it's normal. The harem is full of his ears and eyes. He actually knows every move I make after entering the palace, and I also know that he knows, but he doesn't bother to care. But it's a bit dangerous right now. It's hot in summer, and I wear very little clothes. He rubbed my ankle with his cool fingers all the way up. I only felt that a fire spread from below all the way to my abdomen, and I was very uncomfortable, and my voice trembled a little. "Your Majesty, my concubine is just joking with Xiaotsue." He was a little strange tonight. His usual cold voice was a little sticky and hoarse. "Then let me ask you, have I been overindulging?" The temperature of the hand on my waist gradually increased, and I could feel him getting closer and closer to me, sending a dangerous signal in the dark night. I swallowed. "Your Majesty summons concubine Shu every night. It's not impossible. After all, judging from my father's experience, it is not impossible to visit multiple concubines in one night." Rao. He gritted his teeth and called me, trapped my 2 hands, and stuck them up. In summer, it is somewhat hot. After a long time, his voice still had a hint of hoarseness. "There is something wrong with the incense in concubine Shu's palace. Can this be known to the concubine?" I was about to cover my ears, but he grabbed my wrist. His fingertips were slightly cold, but my ears were quietly hot. Chi Yan seemed to have excellent eyesight at night, and at this moment he chuckled and pinched my earlobe. "You are the queen, so you should naturally know. In order to compete for favor, I have seen this method in my father's palace before, and it is even much more hidden than Liang Zi." Chi Yan sensed something was wrong early in the morning, but he still planned to create the illusion of favoring Liang Zi. As for what he is for, I won't ask, nor guess. After all, no one thinks that life is long. I listened quietly to everything and then asked Chi Yan, "Then your Majesty, are you still sleeping?" It was really late. I was trapped to death. Chi Yan, sleep. Just before going to bed. He grinded his teeth in my ear. I could actually fall asleep, but now that I know something I shouldn't know, it's important to save my life, so I leaned over and kissed him to calm his emotions. He seemed to be stunned, smiled sullenly, hugged me tightly, and said again, "Go to sleep." After this incident, he came earlier and less ashamed. I was flushed at the beginning, but later I turned a blind eye to it, and even had the courage to ridicule him. "Your Majesty, in fact, you are reasonable every day. It's also considered excessive indulgence." So that night, Chi Yan caused me to catch up on sleep during the day, and I didn't even look at the rag. It is still rumored outside, concubine Shu is favored, her brother is powerful, and the 2 surviving descendants of the Liang royal family are quite competitive. In contrast, Jianghua, who surrendered early in the morning, was often compared with the Liang siblings, showing the integrity of the 2 of them. After Jiang Ningyao heard these winds in her ears, she was so angry that she couldn't even eat the pastries, and complained in front of me, "What's wrong with surrendering? Did you eat his rice?" How difficult it was for the people of Jianghua before. My father and my brother were talentless at first glance, and they couldn't manage the country at all. I saw that she was about to pluck a handful of hair on Mimi's body, so I hurriedly comforted her. "If they want to say it, let them say it. you also know that people like to chew their tongues when they have nothing to do, and this will not affect you." She was still indignant, scolded for a while before she calmed down, and then asked me, "Een Rao, then have you thought about your future?" I paused and said casually, "Let it be, what's the use of me worrying about it?" I never asked Chi Yen about state affairs, so naturally, I would not inquire whether he had the intention of annexing the Een state. Although my father asked me to blow the pillow wind, my opinion was the same as Jiang Ningyao's. The people of Een really didn't live a good life under the rule of my father, and most of my older brothers were also wine bags and rice bags, so the future of Een was bleak. But I wouldn't be stupid enough to encourage Chi Yen to swallow the Een state now. Again, one more thing is better than one less. I don't think I have such a great ability, so I don't intend to get involved in these troubles. Everyone has their own fate. I am a coward, so naturally I can only live the life of a coward. But after all, it's good to be alive. When I was growing vegetables in the desolate palace of the Een kingdom, I knew that as a straw bale, when I could survive, I would live with peace of mind. This purpose made me not step forward to block Chi Yan's knife on the day he was stabbed, and Liang Zi was the first to rush over. She was stabbed in the abdomen and fell into Chi Yan's arms. Her face was pale, she vomited blood, and she didn't forget to leave a sentence before passing out, "Your Majesty is fine." The assassin had been caught, but Chi Yan didn't even look at it, staring at Liang Zi in despair, and after the guards reminded him several times, he coldly spat out a word, "Kill." His face and clothes were stained with blood, and his whole body looked like a Shura who had just returned from purgatory. I pressed the strangeness in my heart, calmly looked away, and helped deal with the follow-up. That night, it is said that Chi Yan was listening to Yushuan all night, and I rarely had insomnia for half a night, and slept very restlessly. The next day, the Dali temple found out that it was the people sent by the Een state to assassinate Chi Yan. Chi Yan was furious and discussed with the civil and military ministers in the morning that he wanted to send troops to conquer the Een kingdom. When the news came, Jiang Ningyao had just sent a 3-month-old rag over, and when she heard the words, she glanced at me worriedly. I smiled at her, didn't say anything, and concentrated on teasing the rag. "It's just that the weather is getting cooler, and it's probably going to be autumn." Chi Yan guarded Tinjiakshuan for 3 days, and when Liang Zi finally woke up, he made her a noble concubine. His brother Liang Jimin became a general, and was appointed to march into the Een kingdom in autumn. I am living steadily in Huaning Palace, and my daily fun is to play with rags. It's a pity that the trees want to be quiet, and the wind doesn't stop. There have already been rumors outside, saying that the assassination of the Een kingdom is inseparable from the queen, and even the ministers have reported it, so you should check me carefully. It happened that a carrier pigeon was caught by a rag, so I took the secret letter at its feet, and went to the imperial study to find Chi Yan. I haven't seen him for 7 or 8 days, and the atmosphere is not as harmonious as before. Chi Yan lost a little weight and looked colder, but his eyebrows and eyes softened a little when he saw that the person was me. The secret letter of the Een kingdom, the queen sent it like this. In the letter, my father proposed a stupid way to assassinate Chi Yan inside and outside, so as not to swallow the Een kingdom. Rao is a straw bag like me is very speechless, not to mention whether his daughter can do this. Even if Chi Yan is killed, can't Chigua defeat Ingua? But this letter also has the advantage of showing that the previous assassination was not done by Ingua. After all, the same strategy cannot be implemented twice. I honestly don't have the guts, and everything is up to your majesty. Chi Yan was silent, rubbing the paper, and said after a long time, "Een Rao, do you want me to die?" I shook my head blankly. He smiled, "But if I destroy your Een kingdom and kill your entire clan, will you want me to die?" I was stunned for a long time, and said honestly, "I don't know." Since the concubine entered the palace, His Majesty has always been very good to his concubines, and the concubines have also heard a little about His Majesty's deeds in the previous dynasty. He seemed to have not heard it, so he slowly walked up to me and hooked my chin. His eyes were dim and unclear. "What about your selfishness? Do you want me to die?" His voice was faint, but it reminded me inexplicably of him at night, breathing slightly, and my name occasionally overflowed between his lips. In Rao. Just 2 words were said to be extremely lingering. I seemed to be bewitched by his deep eyes, and I couldn't help but reply, I don't want to. As soon as he finished speaking, he covered my lips directly, and when I was out of breath, he left reluctantly, smiling contentedly, then I will live well. To put it mildly, it seems to have made an important oath. I wondered in my heart, this was too easy to coax, touched my slightly swollen lips, and asked the question I had been asking for a long time. What about your Majesty's concubine Shu? It's a bit overstepping, but I don't know why, I just want to ask. He had already sat back, took me in his arms, and said unconcernedly, it's just a show. But she blocked the knife for you after all. He was already kneading the back of my neck, so what? If I block the knife, I will like this person. There are no less than 10 guards in the palace who have blocked my sword. Do I have to be happy? That's true. Then Qi Yan stopped talking about state affairs, but just leaned lazily on me, as if he hadn't rested well for a long time, and he was very tired. He is probably in the next big game of chess, and now I am on the same front as him, at least life and death are tied. I don't ask for any help, at least I don't add to the chaos. I was hugged by him for an afternoon because of 2, and before leaving, he stopped me and asked me for my small name. Yao Yao. I rarely had a fever on my face, taken from Tsongsong Bamboo Forest Temple, the bell rings late. Yao Yao, he smacked these 2 words, full of smiles, it sounds very good with you. I glared at him angrily and ran away. In the next few days, Qi Yan still visited Liang Zi every day, and he was also very snub to me, but in the middle of the night, he started to turn over the window again and bite me. The word Yao Yao was pronounced by him, and he asked me to pronounce his words from time to time, MOG. He laughs at me like a blank piece of paper, and he uses his body as a pen to splash ink and splash it to his heart's content. I only have one sentence to say, Your Majesty, it's a little disgusting. He bit the back of my neck, what do you call me? Me. MOG, it's a little disgusting. He wasn't angry either, kissed my face and laughed. After more than half a month of such absurdity, Liang Zi's body improved for most of the time, so Qi Yan ordered Liang Jimin to lead his troops to the Yin kingdom. When the decree was issued, I still couldn't help but feel uneasy, just like once a war broke out, there would be some barrier between me and Qi Yan forever. After all, no matter what, I was originally the princess of the Yin kingdom. And Liang Zi, who had just recovered from his injury, came to me at this time, and sent me a note, the autumn wind is rising, and the war drums are beating. I didn't understand what she meant, but I still saw her. She was weak and willow, but her eyebrows and eyes showed a sense of perseverance. Mother, I have a poem that I don't understand, and I want to ask my mother. Me? She continued, the old hometown of Jiangnan and Jiangbei has been a dream for 30 years. Does the lady know what she means? Me, I don't know. I have not had a master since I was born, and I don't understand everything about piano, chess, calligraphy and painting, and I can read big characters and thank my grandmother for bringing me. Liang Zi obviously didn't expect this situation, and he was surprised and a little angry. Mother, this is a poem that expresses the pain of the subjugation of the country. I nodded, oh, I see. Liang Zi was stunned and stared at me. I asked again, don't you know what you mean? Her face was already a little embarrassed, and she took a deep breath before continuing, Nyang, Your Majesty has decided to send troops to the Yin Kingdom, and it is conservatively estimated that within 3 months, the Yin Kingdom will. Mother, how can you forget the hatred of the fallen country? I was so frightened by her intense emotions that I shrank back. Isn't this not the end of the country yet? If you want to say this, you should say it in March, right? Liang Zi finally left, leaving with the eyes that I am most familiar with. After she left, Xiaotsue asked me cautiously, Mother, Your Majesty really wants to. I touched the rag in my arms and only sighed, Xiaotsue, I hate your mother, she is really just a straw bale. If you have a good skin, you can't be a hero who turns the tide. 9 To my surprise, my brothers are not all useless wine bags and rice bags. 3 days before the attack of Qi, Liang Jimin led his army into a no-man's land, but on the fourth day he was met with desperate resistance, and the other general's general was my third brother, the third prince of Yin, Yin Lin. It is said that the two sides faced each other for 7 days until my father went to the front line and surrendered in person. When Qi Yan said the news, I accidentally dropped a wine glass and wet half of my sleeve. Qi Yan was not annoyed, took my hand and wiped it slowly, and said lightly, "Are you worried?" I realized it in hindsight and suddenly looked up. "How will your majesty deal with the family of your concubines?" This question has been circling in my mind since the war began. I can persuade myself to be on the sidelines. After all, my mother is a native of Qi, and half of my body has Qi blood, so when Qi and Yin go to war, I can remain neutral, and the people of Yin are really not doing well under the rule of my father, but when it comes to life and death, blood relations seem to bind me. Liang Ziyi wrote another letter to me after that day, expressing her grief and regret for the killing of her clan and the destruction of the country, and said that if I continued to do nothing, I would end up in the same fate as her. I read the letter carefully, and did not hand over the obvious evidence of this rebellious intention to Qi Yan, nor did I give Liang Ziyi any response. I only burned the letter. At that time, my mentality was, if it hasn't happened yet, don't worry. But now, everything has happened, and there is no way to go back. Life and death are just between Qi Yan's thoughts. The person who held the power of life and death stared at me quietly for a while, only saying, "If you are the princess of the Yin kingdom, your family will probably end up in the same situation as the Liang royal family, but if you are my wife, the queen of Dachi, your family will naturally be safe. Princess Yin and Empress Daki, Yin Rao, let's see how you choose." I thought this was an unreasonable question, and after thinking for a long time, I asked Qi Yan, "In your majesty's heart, what role is the concubine?" He didn't seem to expect me to ask this. He was stunned for a moment, and said meaningfully, "In my heart, you have always been the queen of Daki. Then the concubine will be the queen of Daki. Although it is actually already." This will make Qi Yan hesitate. "Are you sure? In this way, you have abandoned your blood clan, and the title of Princess of Yin, and you will be the queen of my Qi state from now on." He paused, his eyes lowered, and his voice became a little hoarse. "It's my wife." I only felt that his grip on my hand was getting tighter and tighter, as if he was in the wrong mood, so he softened his voice and said, "Mog, strictly speaking, the Yin kingdom is dead. Whether I want to be a princess of Yin or not, I can't change this fact, and as you said, I am married to you, and I am half of a Qi person, so it really doesn't matter." "Married me?" He repeated these words and smiled inexplicably. "Are you serious?" I couldn't figure out what he was thinking, and tentatively replied, "That's not considered marriage, it's just a direct delivery." Qi Yan's face instantly became a little colder. I quickly changed my words, "Marry. I, Yin Rao, have already married Qi Yan." His face can be called spring returning to the earth, and the ice and snow melting. That night, Qi Yan did not pretend to summon Liang Ziyi, and stayed directly in my palace, claiming to make up for our bridal chamber candle night. I thought he would be self-reliant as usual, but I didn't expect him to come this time, and eat me from the inside out. Finally, there was only a low sigh. "Yaoi, you are finally mine." The tide recedes and rises, wave after wave, and I try to escape like someone who is about to drown. Qi Yan pulled me back reluctantly. "Yaoi, don't escape." I was bitten by the back of the neck of my fate and couldn't move, and when I woke up the next day, it was already 3 poles in the sun, and Qi Yan rarely didn't go to court, and he hugged me and slept comfortably. I was so tired that I couldn't use my strength, but my mouth still had strength, and I couldn't help but mutter, "I'm tired." He smiled like a rag that had been eaten. "You haven't contributed, why are you tired?" After saying that, he pinched my sore waist. I became angry and shouted, "Tear the rag." With a whoosh, the rag flew to the bed, landed steadily on Qi Yan's stomach, and scratched his neck by the way. "Qi Yan." I had already hid inside, and when I saw this, I still laughed out loud, planning to add a fish to the rag later. Qi Yan took the rag out of bed with a dark face, then came over and grabbed my hand, squinted and said, "Yao, come here." I swallowed. "Your Majesty, Do you still have a wound on your neck? He curled his lips and smiled. Just ask you to come over and apply medicine to me, otherwise what do you think? Me. After spending a long time and beauty to wipe Qi Yan's medicine, he said slowly, actually, I have never planned to deal with your family, at least a few of them. Me, so yesterday's words were just threatening me. Qi Yan was obviously very proud of his treachery and cunning, and smiled very harshly. Your third brother should be able to enter the palace to see you in the near future, you should get ready. I was stunned for a moment. How do you know? I know nothing. He kissed my eyes. If he hadn't taken care of you before, I wouldn't have let Liang Jimin keep him alive. Then my father. He kissed me on the lips and then said, those who have bullied you have been arrested. Yao Yao, don't care about them anymore, you are married to me, now you just need to look at me alone. On that day, Qi Yan's madness began to appear, and I had not yet noticed it. 10 After the battle between the state of Qi and the state of Yin, Liang Jimin made a triumphant return, and became famous, and even many people were praising the Liang siblings. In order to catch the wind and wash the dust for the soldiers, Qi Yan specially set up a banquet, and only brought a concubine from Liangzi to attend, as for me, the queen, naturally waiting to see my third brother in the harem. Among the brothers and sisters, the third brother has the closest relationship with me. His mother and concubine have a very good relationship with my mother, so after my mother died of illness, he took care of me very much, but there were many princes, the struggle for power was fierce, and he had a pure temperament, so he would always suffer losses, and what he could do was very limited. But that doesn't prevent me from getting close to him. When the National Two Master calculated that I was a disaster for the country and the people, he advised his father that he should not be superstitious about such rumors. The father was enjoying the dance at the time, and when he heard the words, he said with a little disgust, since she was born, everything has not gone well in my Yin kingdom. Laughing to death, the people of Yin were convinced. When I was young, I went out to the palace to play, and after being identified, I was cursed by some people and greeted with friendly greetings from eggs and vegetable leaves. The third brother was so disappointed that on the day I left for Qi, he sighed, Yaoi, if you can, never come back, this country is rotten. But despite the rotten rot, when Qi attacked, the third brother still resisted tenaciously and vowed not to surrender. When they saw each other again, the third brother couldn't help but have red eyes, and he held back for a long time before saying, Yao Yao, you are thin. I'm fat. Me. The food of Qi is finer than that of Yin, so it is inevitable to gain weight. I smiled and ordered the palace servants to bring the prepared meals. The third brother took a closer look and nodded, indeed. Then the first thing we did, when we got back together, was to have a big meal. After drinking and eating, the third brother told the previous events in detail. On the day Qi announced its attack, the ministers of Yin were automatically divided into two factions, one main faction and the other main surrender, and quarreled for several days. When the army pressed the border, the civil and military officials of the Manchu dynasty basically became surrenderers, leaving my third brother still holding on, and even privately mobilizing troops to the front line to fight Liang Jimin. The two are indistinguishable. Liang Jimin also said that if it weren't for the wrong timing, the two might have become confidants. It's just a pity, a pity. When the father hurried to surrender in person, the third brother was red-eyed, his armor was soaked with blood, and corpses were everywhere. The autumn wind rose, the war drums beat, but the military flag of the Yin state no longer flew, and the war drums were no longer silent. I saw my father standing in front of the corpses of the soldiers and surrendering, and I just thought it was ironic. The third brother finally shed tears, and the veins on his forehead protruded. Such a country is rotten from the root. I don't know how to comfort him, everything is a foregone conclusion. I can't get him to assassinate Qi Yan now and seize power in one fell swoop. As the third brother said, there was a problem in the Yin state from the root, and he held on to this time, and there will be countless times in the future. If a ruler is unbenevolent, his country will eventually perish. At best, for the people of Yin, the hard days may be coming to an end. There was silence for a long time, but the third brother thought about it himself, rubbed my head and said, I've eaten a lot, I'll take you to digest the food. I felt something was wrong. Where are you going? Third brother, heavenly prison. Me. You mean Qi Yan, right? The third brother touched his nose and sneered, That's very reasonable. I stood up neatly, then let's go. The third brother muttered, You listen to him. I felt inexplicable, then don't you listen to him too? Otherwise, why did you take me to the heavenly prison? Third brother. I think if Liang Zi saw this scene, he would scold me and Yinlin for having no integrity. But she can control it. The heavenly prison is locked up with my father, as well as a group of brothers and sisters I have seen, or have not seen, and the third brother's goal is very clear, he brought me to see my father. The former king of a country is now dressed in prison uniform, disheveled hair, and haggard, and the first thing he said when he saw me was, You unfilial daughter. As soon as he finished speaking, he was kicked by the jailer next to him, in front of the queen, Don't be rude. It felt like such a kick, and one of his old bones was shattered. I didn't want to pay attention to him, so I asked my third brother, What did Qi Yan want me to do when I asked him to see him? The third brother looked at the old man, his eyes were dark, Let you know the past of your mother and concubine. Old things, I have long forgotten. Another kick. He spat out a mouthful of blood and curled up on the ground. The third brother don't open his eyes, it was agreed before, if you don't say it, you know what will happen to you. He was still cursing vaguely, rebel. Reverse female. After scolding, in the dimly lit cell, he reluctantly talked about the past. In the early years, when Yinwei was still a prince, he disguised himself and mixed into the state of Qi, accidentally suffered a conspiracy, and was seriously injured. My mother appeared at that time, in the mountains and fields, deserted. My mother couldn't bear it, so she saved him. In the process of getting along, Yinwei fell in love with my mother, but after some confession, he heard my mother say that he had nothing else to do, and he was resentful for a while, and he stunned my mother when he was recovering from his injury and forcibly kidnapped Yingguo. If my mother was a country woman, then Qiguo would not have noticed this, but my mother's full name was Qi Xinya, the youngest daughter of the Duke of Dinghua. Because she was frail since she was a child, she was raised in the countryside and did not care about the world, but she was unexpectedly killed because of this. At that time, the royal family of Qi was in chaos, and the Duke of Dinghua was busy stabilizing the forces of all parties, and because my mother had always been protected by secret guards, he didn't ask much. I don't want Yinwei to also take a team of people and horses, and use dirty means to kill all the secret guards and forcibly seize them. When the Duke of Dinghua found out about this, my mother had changed her name and surname, and was trapped in the deep palace of the Yin kingdom. Yinwei knew that my mother's identity was extraordinary since the appearance of the secret guard, but she was full of lust and courage, and she finally fell into murder. After my mother woke up, she hated him to death and used various means to escape, but she was arrested back. Yinwei loved her but hated her for not loving him, coercion and inducement, both soft and hard, but to no avail. So later he snubbed her, even if he learned that she was pregnant and gave birth to a princess. He didn't want to step into her palace gate again, and even the moment he learned of my mother's death, he was just stunned for a moment, so he hugged his new favorite and said with a smile, Then play music, then dance. I didn't know such a detailed past, and I didn't know that my mother had suffered so much. In my memory, she has always been gentle, and occasionally there will be a sadness between her eyebrows, but when her eyes move to me, everything dissipates. She would only call me softly, Yao Yao, come here, my mother will teach you something else today. The skills of growing vegetables and raising chickens are taught to me by my mother, and in addition, she can also with grasshoppers, catch sparrows, etc. I always thought she was an ordinary peasant woman, but I didn't expect that she was originally the daughter of Duke Dinghua. When I saw the bad old man opposite, I felt a little disgusted and really vomited. Yao Yao, are you okay? The third brother patted me on the back worriedly and sighed, I didn't plan to tell you these things but Qi Yan knows, and I hope I know too. I suddenly understood Qi Yan's purpose, looked at the culprit, and said with a smile, I want to thank him for destroying your country. Yinwei's face changed again, and he suddenly became furious, You unfilial daughter, what are you talking about? I am my father, but you don't know filial piety, just as hateful as your mother. I am her husband, but she. There were some crazy words behind, and I didn't want to listen to it anymore, so I left with my third brother. After coming out, I looked at the sun and asked my third brother about his future plans, and he smiled bitterly and said, "Can I make the decision about this?" Oh yes, the Een state perished, and now the Een family is all subjugated slaves, prisoners under the steps, and they can't help themselves in any way. But now that I have selfish intentions, at least I don't want the third brother to end up like them, so I said, if the third brother can trust me, I can help the third brother make the decision. He was stunned for a moment. What do you want? I was very serious. Just seduce Chi Yan. Een Lin, ? 11 This passage must have reached Chi Yan's ears, and he deliberately sent someone to inform me that he would not call anyone to sleep tonight, but would sleep alone. Such a little bit of bad things are worth telling the world, and I am a little speechless. Xiaotsui expressed her strong support after knowing that I was going to seduce Chi Yan, and spent a long time dressing me up. Me. This girl's heart for favor has not disappeared. Xiaotsui was very satisfied. The lady looks like a fairy, she will definitely please your majesty. So I was sent to Chi Yan's dormitory, and when he arrived, he was still in the imperial study to handle government affairs, so he left me alone in the dormitory to wait for people, just like the day I first came. It's a pity that people are spoiled, with a head full of pearls and emeralds, wearing strange skirts. I am very uncomfortable, thinking that I have seen everything with Chi Yan, so I took off all Xiaotsui's heart, waited for Chi Yan on the bed in a single coat, and then waited for Chi Yan to fall asleep. When I woke up, Chi Yan was lying next to me, tracing my eyebrows with his fingertips, and hooked his lips when he saw me open his eyes. This is how you came to seduce me. I am not fully awake yet, and I have long left behind what seduction is, and now I will only habitually roll into his arms, trying to hug his thin waist. As soon as his hand touched the fabric, he pushed him back, and his voice was slightly cold. I said I won't call anyone tonight. How dare the queen commit a crime knowingly? I blinked, finally woke up, and looked at him flatteringly. Without your majesty, I can't sleep alone. Really? He sat up, further away from me. When I came, the queen was already sleeping very soundly, and she didn't look like she couldn't sleep all night. Me. Isn't it still too late for you to approve the memorial? I muttered in my heart, not daring to show it on my face, lowered my posture a little lower, and threw a flattering glance at him. Your majesty, Mog. The long night is lonely, can't you really accompany me? Chi Yan's face instantly turned ugly. Enough, don't say it anymore. I obediently returned to normal. Look, I really can't do it. I don't have the ability to know, right? Seduction, I have never done this kind of thing since I was born, and it must be disgusting to do it for the first time. Hee, it's deliberately disgusting. Chi Yan. Chi Yan smiled angrily, picked up a piece of clothing I took off and placed it next to the bed, and raised his eyebrows at me. Yao, if you want to show sincerity, wear this one for me to see. It was a top-secret weapon claimed by Xiaotsui, a translucent gauze skirt. I struggled for a while, took the skirt obediently, and then slowly changed my clothes in front of Chi Yan. Chi Yan's gaze became deeper and deeper when he looked at me, and dragged me over for the last time. Yao, if I want to go to hell, can I pull you together? Me, Chi Yan, I want to live. He smiled and covered my lips. Now you can't choose. Then what are you asking me for? One night was ridiculous, and when I woke up the next day, I remembered to help my third brother get an official position. It's all Chi Yan's fault, causing me to forget. When he went to court, he saw my resentful face and said clearly, I will arrange your third brother's affairs for you. He is a talented person and has ambitions in his heart, so I will not give in to his talents. The official position arranged by Chi Yan for the third brother was to be in charge of the land of the original Een state, which was a regret in his heart. The point is that this will was made a few days ago, which means that I am the same whether I am lustful or not. Chi Yan laughed again. That gauze dress last night is very worthy. I will order the clothing bureau to imitate a few more pieces and send them to your palace. I was completely in a state of it's okay, as long as you are happy. Qi Yan asked me again how I wanted to deal with Yin Wei and his children. You know all the past events, so now the choice is yours. But I thought of something else. Did you know these things early on? He nodded. I met your mother when I was a child, and then she disappeared, so I inquired about the news, and the specific details were found out by my secret guards a few years ago. Finally, he asked me, do you hate him? I didn't say who it was, but he and I both knew who it was. You let me see him and let me know these things. Do you want me to hate him? Qi Yan was slightly startled and gently stroked the back of my neck. Yao Yao, I know you don't like to fight, but you should hate those who should be hated. Do you remember the emotions in the prison that day? That is hatred, stronger than love, more lasting than love, and can support you far, far away. I grabbed Qi Yan's sleeve and said weakly, but I don't want to hate. Hate is too tiring, and I don't plan to go far, because I'm too lazy to walk. Just like one day, he showed me his fan made of beautiful bones and said that if I was afraid, I could escape back to Yin now. I replied, I'm too tired to move. It's very hard to live, and if you have to allocate energy to hate someone, it's too tiring. The gloom in Qi Yan's eyes disappeared in an instant, replaced by a smile and a little helplessness. One day I will be lazy. I nodded. Well, it's not impossible. Xiao Chui on the side. Yin Wei was finally sentenced to beheading, and Qi Yan took the idea for me, saying that since I didn't dare to kill anyone, he would kill me for me. My brothers and sisters were all sent to the frontier, and only my third brother was going to Yin County to take up his post. On the day of departure, he turned back 3 times, very reluctant. If things don't go well, you must write to me. I thought it was funny. It's not that I can't see you in this life. What is my brother doing? He seemed to glance at Qi Yan and smiled at me. You can pull it down. If I don't take the initiative to see you, with your temperament, I will definitely not come to see me for 800 years. Oh, this is true. Finally, Qi Yan recalled me who was out of his mind. Yaoi, the wind is blowing, let's go back. 12 After all the dust settled, there were still some rumors that the Liang state was defeated back then, saying that the Liang siblings were miserable. This is all cliché, nothing, but I don't know when. Some people have rumored that the current emperor is not the royal blood of Qi, but actually an impostor. Qi Yan never told me this. I learned about these past events from Xiao Cui and Jiang Ningyao. It is said that the state of Qi and the state of Liang were still evenly matched, and the state of Qi once sent a prince to the state of Liang, and that was Qi Yan. Some people say that in fact, the prince of that year had already been poisoned by the Liang state and died, and now this Qi Yan is just a nobody who replaces his identity. At the same time, some people dug up Qi Yan's old account, saying that he was not a benevolent king. On the contrary, he was actually brutal and unkind, killing people. The descendants of the Liang family were almost extinct, and they also used a lot of thunderous methods to govern the world in previous years, harming many innocent dead, and the families of those beauties who were sent to the palace in the early years also came out of nowhere, crying over and over again about how innocent and pitiful their daughters were. In an instant, the people's hearts were in chaos. I heard that in the early morning court in the past few days, some courtiers have spoken, openly and secretly questioning whether Qi Yan's bloodline is pure, saying that they are loyal to the Qi family, and no one is allowed to fill the number indiscriminately. Qi Yan didn't respond, but as always, he pampered Liang Zi on the surface, and turned the window to look for me in the middle of the night. I always felt that he had lost a lot of weight, so I avoided him when he kissed me and whispered, "Go to bed early, you should rest more." His chaotic hand stopped at my waist, and his eyes seemed to glow in the dark night. Do you feel sorry for me? I pretended not to hear the smile in his words. Well, I'm afraid you will die suddenly, so I have no backer. He pinched my waist. No conscience. I didn't speak, I just rubbed his chest. After a while he said, Yao Yao, in a few days, come with me to go autumn hunting, okay? On the surface it is a consultation, but in fact it is a notice, and I have no right to refuse. Jiang Ningyao made an excuse to take care of Mimi and the rag, and did not want to come over with me, but reminded me the day before my departure to pay attention to safety. Who is defending? Naturally, it was Liang Zi who went together. Since the surrender of Yin, Liang Zi has looked down on me a little, and no longer wants me to unite with her as before. I was happy that she was far away from me, but during the autumn hunt, we had to meet each other. I was worried that the queen would be overly sad, but fortunately she looked good. She smiled, but it just made me uncomfortable, and I replied perfunctorily, "This palace eats and sleeps well every day, and naturally looks good." "Really?" She smiled and looked sad again. The concubine heard that the frontier was bitter and cold, and I don't know if the mother's brothers and sisters can eat and sleep well. I yawned. Concubine Lao, she was worried. "If you are so worried about the brothers and sisters in this palace, why don't you go to the frontier one day to see for yourself?" She turned pale, looked at me contemptuously, and stopped talking. I know she looks down on me, and I don't expect her to understand me. After all, I heard that the descendants of the Liang family have a close relationship with each other, and it is normal for her to complain about her clan, but I don't have such a kind clan, so naturally I can't lie down like her. The way is different, and they do not conspire with each other. Qi Yan saw that I didn't want to deal with Liang Ziyi, so he offered to take me hunting together. But I didn't bother to move. I can't ride a horse. He looked expectant. "I'll take you to ride, or maybe you're here waiting for me to come back with concubine Shu." "Me, I'll go with you too." The hunting ground is a forest, green and golden, occasionally fallen leaves fall, and the rustling sound of horses' hooves stepping down. If you ignore Qi Yan's kiss on the back of my neck, this scene is an unforgettable beauty. I turned sideways and said speechlessly, "Qi Yan, didn't you come out to hunt?" "They have already run past 2 sika deer." He laughed. "Don't worry." Then he pulled the reins and let the horse walk slowly through the forest, as if waiting for something. After a long time, he had probably walked deep into the forest, and an arrow flew from nowhere, startling the horse to run wildly. The wind howled in his ears, and countless arrows broke out of the sky from all directions, most of which were blocked by nearby secret guards, and a few that leaked out were also avoided by Qi Yan. He pulled the reins with one hand and hugged my waist with the other, and laughed. "Are you afraid?" I leaned close to his chest, not knowing whether it was my heart or his who was beating wildly at the moment. I heard myself ask, "Are we going to die?" Qi Yan laughed lightly, his chest vibrated. "Yao Yao, you won't die." "Yes, I won't die because the arrow shot at us was finally taken down by Qi Yan." When the horse was hit by an arrow and fell to the ground, Qi Yan hugged me and rolled on the ground several times to stop. Only then did I realize that there was something strange about him. There were no pursuers in the rear, but in front, there was only an unfathomable dense forest, as if between the vast world, only me and Qi Yan were left. Qi Yan had already passed out, and the arrow behind him seemed to have been broken by himself, leaving only a small piece inserted, because he was dressed in black clothes, so he couldn't see how much blood was flowing. I also suddenly realized that there was a strong smell of blood in the aroma of grass and trees. He said, "Yao, you won't die." Because he helped me block it. Or these were for him. Idiot. I wiped his embarrassed face clean, and dragged him to a more hidden place and leaned against the tree. Fortunately, when I was a child, my mother taught me herbs in the wild, and with my vague memory, I found some herbs around me to stop the bleeding, and then gritted my teeth, and pulled out the arrow from his back, applied the chewed herbs, and then tore off a piece of clothing to bandage him. After some movement, I was already sweating profusely. Half of it was that he was so flustered that I had to move him with a lot of force, and the other half was that my heart was always in a ball, and my hands were trembling slightly when bandaging. In the end, I was so tired that I fell asleep next to Qi Yan. I had a strange dream, and at the end of the dream, Qi Yan smiled sadly at me and said no more. When he woke up, it was already evening, and Qi Yan was still in a coma. The sun set and there was a damp cold air in the forest. I touched Qi Yan's forehead, there was a thin layer of sweat, cold, and my heart suddenly sank, and there was no other way, so I had to hug him tightly face to face, and then wrap the two of us together with his coat, trying to get some heat over. The surroundings are getting darker and darker, with occasional sharp sounds of birds returning to their nests, and the rustling of animals passing through the bushes. I was a little sleepy, but I didn't dare to sleep, so I kept muttering in Qi Yan's ear, saying things that had no beginning or end. "The rag is getting bigger and bigger, and the personality has become naughty. They all say that the rag is not good looking, but I think it looks very good. How to say it, there is a kind of weird beauty. Are you lying to me if you tell me that you like to eat egg custard? I also made egg custard for Jiang Ningyao, and she said it was the most ordinary egg custard. If you want me to say, it's your fault for letting those two sick deer go in the afternoon, otherwise we wouldn't be hungry now. It's dark now, and my eyes are not good at night. Where can I get you food? If only we were in the countryside, I could still steal some vegetables and eggs for you. This forest is big and difficult to walk. Don't blame me if you starve to death then. When will you wake up? You used to wake me up, but now it's time for me to wake you up. Give me some face. I talked a lot and finally heard Qi Yan's hoarse voice. I don't know, you talk so much, it's so noisy that it gives me a headache. I happily pressed my forehead to make sure he didn't have a fever, and then said disgustedly, you were shot in the back, and it should be back pain. He smiled sullenly. Why don't you run? I glanced at him inexplicably. Did you get an arrow in tea? He brained too. He only laughed. I know you were forced to follow me at the beginning, and now I may not be the emperor, so I can't force you. If you want to leave, now is the best time. Hiss, what are you doing? I took a bite of his mouth and said speechlessly, I want to see how hard your mouth really is. Een Rao. I stood up and interrupted him. It's useless to say so much, it's better to take a good look around and think about how we can get out. His eyesight at night is also excellent, and he is the only one who can be counted on. Qi Yan didn't move, still looking at me. I hated him like this, as if he wished he could be abandoned by me now. Do you think you're great? Do whatever you want me to do. What I really don't want to do, no one can force me, do you understand? And even if I want to leave, I have to go back to the palace first to get something and take the rag with me. Do you think I will be able to live well as soon as I leave you now? Qi Yan, do you have a problem with your brain? Don't tell me anything, arrange everything on your own, and then pretend to say that you are willing to let me go now. I don't care what big chess you are playing or who you are playing games with. I have made an appointment with Jiang Ningyao and Xiaotsue before I came out, and I will bring 2 little rabbits to play with them. Do you think you owe me a lot? Then you will return me according to my wishes. Take me out of this shit forest first, then catch 2 rabbits for me, and finally take me back. I said for a long time, but I still felt unrelieved, and the conversation changed. Or are you in love with Liang Ziyi, so you want to find an excuse to let me go? Qi Yan, you heartless man. As soon as the emotions were in place, Qi Yan stood up and hugged me, blocking my chattering mouth. In the forest, only the sound of sizzling and entangled breathing remained. After a long time, he sighed. I'm really afraid of you, a small mouth can say this. I was still angry. I turned my head away, and didn't want to pay attention to him, and he broke it again. I'm sorry, I won't drive you away, he said softly, so you are not allowed to leave me again. Me, I never said it, you came up with it yourself. He was silent for a while. It seems to be me. So what is this person thinking about all day long? Qi Yan cheekily pasted it and rubbed the tip of his nose against my face. Then you never said you wouldn't leave me. I'm not stupid, you always run to Liang Ziyi's palace, why should I say such upside-down words? He laughed, jealous. I didn't want to answer, so I changed the subject and said, does your shoulder hurt anymore? He gasped exaggeratedly, as if he had just remembered. It hurts. I was suspicious. Does it really hurt that much? He nodded. Me, hee, you deserve it. 13 After the fight, Qi Yan took me out of the forest with his excellent eyesight and memory, and happened to meet the person looking for us. It was also under the light that I found that his face was frighteningly white and looked weak, but I was afraid that his previous calmness was all pretending. My eyes turned red for a moment, and I was so anxious that I almost carried the accompanying imperial physician over, but Qi Yan patted my hand comfortingly. It's okay. I promised you that I would live well. That was a long time ago, and I almost forgot. At this point, I rubbed my eyes and just said, then you are not allowed to regret it, you still have to catch a rabbit for me. His pale lips curled up a smile and said to others, let the queen go out and have a good rest. I myself was indeed haggard, and I didn't resist when I heard the words, so I went out obediently, ate and washed, and then made up for it well. It was the second day when he woke up, and the guard said that the imperial doctor had checked it, except for the shoulder injury, the rest was fine, and Qi Yan was resting at the moment. I didn't want to disturb him, so I stood in front of the tent door and asked the guards, "Can you find out who did it?" Qi Yan once told me that the feeling in the heavenly prison that day was called hatred, and now I have experienced it again. Probably Qi Yan gave an order, and the guards didn't hide it from me. It's concubine Shu's person. The Liang siblings, one assassinated Qi Yan in the hunting ground, and the other mobilized troops in the city to prepare to usurp the throne. But Qi Yan probably calculated everything accurately. The assassination was unsuccessful, and the usurpation was not successful. The next moment Qi Yan's accident last night, the two were arrested. I can't help but wonder if the injury on Qi Yan's shoulder is also part of his plan. Thinking so, I asked this question when I was feeding Qi Yan. He didn't seem surprised and nodded calmly, "Yes, it's a bitter plan." Me. I couldn't understand why. "I want to know if you love me or not." His hand slowly climbed up the back of my neck again, which indicated a desire for control from my experience. "I just feel idiotic if I don't love you. Will I sleep with you?" Qi Yan thought for a while. "With your personality, what do you think?" Me. "Damn it, it was pinched." Qi Yan continued to say unhurriedly, "Do you remember what I taught you before? That's called hatred. You say it's too hard. So now I teach you something else. Yao Yao, the expression you made to me last night is called love." I saw the stubbornness and madness in his eyes, and suddenly understood something. "If I decide to leave you alone last night, will I die?" Qi Yan acquiesced. "Do you remember the fan made of beauty bones that I showed you? Although I have never killed anyone in front of you, I am actually not a good person, and I have killed countless people in a corner you don't know. So I think I can also kill my sweetheart. That's what I really am, Yin Rao." I thought for a long time and sighed. "Then you are quite perverted." Qi Yan. Qi Yan tugged at the corners of his mouth. "Other than that, don't you have any other ideas?" I nodded. "Get better quickly, you still owe me 2 rabbits." Qi Yan stopped talking, just stared at me, making me hairy, and finally bit the bullet and stepped forward to kiss the corner of his mouth, wrinkling his face. "It's so bitter." He laughed suddenly, pressed the back of my head deeper, and finally smiled. "This is how you can taste it, the good medicine is bitter." I glared at him. Hooligan. When Qi Yan's injuries had recovered mostly, our group returned to the palace, along with 2 rabbits. In the end, Jiang Ningyao and I stared wide-eyed and proposed, "Let's eat braised rabbit head tonight. I think it's wonderful." The previous events have been investigated. This assassination, as well as the knife blocked by Liang Ziyi at the palace banquet before, were all made by Liang Jimin's people. During this period, Liang Jimin also privately recruited troops, plotted misdeeds, formed parties for personal gain and other crimes. Liang Ziyi's use of infatuation incense was also exposed, as well as having an affair with the former dynasty and disrupting the government. In short, the siblings became notorious overnight and both went to prison. The night before the execution, Liang Ziyi asked to see me. I was lazy, but Qi Yan wanted to take me with me. Liang Ziyi still straightened his spine, and his face no longer looked gentle. "How dare you come with me?" she said hatefully to Qi Yan. Qi Yan hugged me and said lazily, "Don't you just want to tell her about me? Then why can't I, the person involved, be present? I don't like this kind of riddle-telling dialogue. I have something to say. I'm leaving." I also made an appointment with Jiang Ningyao to eat braised pig's trotters tonight. Liang Ziyi had a "you are so sad" expression. "Do you know what kind of man is next to you?" I replied, "A pervert." Then Qi Yan pinched my waist. I pushed him away. "You go out, I'll whisper to her." Qi Yan. Liang Ziyi. I sat opposite Liang Ziyi, held my head and said, "Okay, what do you want to say to me?" "What do you want to say?" "It's just some old things." Qi Yan was indeed not the prince back then, he was the little eunuch who came with the prince. As for why Liang Zi was so sure, it was because the prince was killed by the Liang people. No one expected that the little eunuch would impersonate himself and become Qi Yan. I wiped my face, not believing it. Are you sure you are a little eunuch? Isn't it a little guard or something? Of course. What do you mean? I touched my chin. As far as I know, Qi Yan is not a eunuch. Liang Zi's pupils trembled instantly, and after a while, he smiled bitterly. No wonder, I thought that incense didn't work on him because he was a eunuch. I see, that's how. Paused and then asked me, he killed your father, how can you still stay with him? I don't want to explain too much, everyone's situation is different, you shouldn't kidnap me with your ideas. If what you want to tell me is Qi Yan's identity, then I think it's almost here. Just as I was about to get up and leave, Liang Zi stopped me again. Don't you think such a person is scary? As your pillow person, the scheming is so heavy. I nodded approvingly, it's quite scary. Then why don't you leave him? I deserve it, too lazy to run. That night, Qi Yan rarely only slept with me in his arms, and did nothing else. He told me that in fact, he was also the Prince of Qi, but he was born to a palace maid and was extremely unfavored. Only that prince was good to him back then, so he went to Liang with him in disguise. In order to take revenge, he had to impersonate, and then vigorously develop the state of Qi and annex the state of Liang in one fell swoop. I had to sigh, what an inspirational story. Qi Yan. Qi Yan rubbed my neck, do you have anything else to say? Oh yes. Only then did I remember something, Jiang Ningyao asked me to beg you to let her out of the palace. It turned out that Qi Yan kept her just to accompany me to relieve boredom, and now that he has dealt with the affairs of the Liang kingdom, Jiang Ningyao also felt that the palace was too boring, so she wanted to go out. It's a small thing, Qi Yan kissed my neck, do you have anything else to say? I thought for a moment, it's time to sleep. Qi Yan bit me angrily. I smiled, okay, ask, why doesn't Yin Rao leave Qi Yan, a pervert? At that moment, Qi Yan's breathing seemed to stop. I hugged him back and whispered in his ear, because she learned to love. Hate is too tiring, but it's easier to love you.